why are we withholding this information from parents, knowing that no matter how much we say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, they're still doing it. We
Yeah,
must provide them with a way to do it safely, or we're never going to serve our families properly. So
exactly.
I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. I'm not trying to like hammer our
No,
government
I want to
here.
add one more thing too,
Yeah,
because there is
please.
research behind it too. Like, in studies that have been done, 60 to 70%, depending on like between US and Canada, it was like I think 60 or 70 in either country, are bringing a baby under 6 months into their bed. So the vast majority are.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Birth Lounge podcast. All right, you guys, I'm literally walking on my treadmill the other day as I'm trying to prepare for this baby, trying to get my body right, and I've been prioritizing walking every single day, particularly after lunch and dinner, in hopes to help avoid preeclampsia, because we know that walking after eating can help balance your blood sugar, so that also decreases your risk of things like gestational diabetes and preeclampsia. But nevertheless, I looked down at my phone and I get a text, and it read, you have no idea, you saved my life. I didn't know how bad it was until I finally slept. And I thought, what in the world? And I texted back and said, I'm so glad that you finally slept. What do you think was the key factor? And this mama wrote back and said, your newborn sleep solutions guide has changed our life. I finally feel like myself again. Of course, at this point, I'm crying because that is what I do when I feel so grateful that you guys allow me to have space in your life and in your home to help support you during this time. Now, her baby is just 5 weeks old, and he was still waking almost every 90 minutes overnight to nurse. And you guys, it can be normal, but that doesn't have to be your normal. She was literally running on fumes, doubting herself, snapping at her partner, crying all the time, and really wondering, what the heck have I done? When she reached out to me, I was sure to gently but firmly let her know that, yeah, at 5 weeks, your baby really should be doing 4 to 5 hour, maybe even 6 hour stretches at night. And she was completely flabbergasted. And all she asked was, how? How do I make that happen? Here's a couple of things. First of all, daytime sleep really does dictate nighttime sleep. So if your baby's not sleeping enough during the day, they're not going to sleep at night. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but newborns need around 18 hours of sleep every single day. Plus, if the sleep environment isn't set up right, then, well, they're not going to sleep very well during the day. That sleep is going to happen in these short, exhausting bursts. And then, one other thing you need to know is that research shows that consistent sleep patterns both support the newborn brain development and mom and dad's mental health. So I passed along my newborn sleep solution guides, and I was sure to remind her that good sleep is not a luxury. You don't have to pay expensive money or hire these gurus. You can literally just lay a healthy sleep foundation for your baby because, well, they're human. They need sleep. Sleep is literally one of the primal things that we need to stay alive. And I explain all of this in the newborn sleep solutions guide. I lay out exactly what your daytime routine should look like in order to enable you to have a good, solid nighttime of rest. I talk to you about wake windows, how much you should be feeding your baby, different sleep environment factors, and how to tweak those to best support your child's development. Plus, I'm talking to you about all the places that are safe for your baby to sleep. And yes, I do step you through safe co-sleeping, because here's the thing, I know so many of you are doing it, and what I don't want you to do is do it dangerously without understanding how to safely do it. So yeah, I'm not one of those staunchly put your baby on their back in their crib in a different room. No way. I'm going to talk to you about all of your options. What does it look like to put your baby in their own room, in their crib on their back? What does it look like to have their crib in your room, or maybe they're in a bassinet? And then what does it look like to safely co-sleep? Because here's the thing, I don't care how you sleep with your baby. I just want you to do it safely. And more so, I want you and your baby to be getting good, hearty sleep at night. It is going to make you a better mother. You're going to love life even more. You're going to be able to bond with your baby even deeper, and your baby will actually be more enjoyable during the day. So say goodbye to the short 20-minute naps. Say goodbye to the witching hour. Say goodbye to the inconsolable crying. And say hello to 4, 5, 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep at night, where when you wake up, you go, OMG, I am a new lady. Head to the show notes right now and you will find our Newborn Sleep Solutions Guide linked right there for you. Click on the link and you'll be able to download it and get started today. And the best part is it doesn't have a long implementation period. You can literally download it now and implement it as soon as you get through the guide. Yeah, like literally in an hour or two. It doesn't take long and you will see instant results, I promise. If you're still a little skeptical, you can head to my Instagram and you can look at all of the hundreds of parents that have come before you that have literally changed their life. Sleepless nights and afternoons filled with your baby crying and you crying does not have to be your norm. You can get back to solid sleep, but there are some simple tweaks that need to happen in your life and in your home and in your routines, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Head to the link in the show notes and download our Newborn Sleep Solution Guide right now. Happy snoozing! All right, have you ever wondered why babies sleep better when they are near adults? Or if you've ever been nap trapped, you realize very quickly, holy cow, contact naps are kind of magical. My baby will stay asleep for hours, and it's deep, restful, restorative sleep. But that lends the question of how close is close? What does that proximity actually look like? Does your baby really need to be on your body? Is co-sleeping truly an option? Is it safe? Is it better? Is being in a bassinet in your room just as well? And then, of course, the question on everyone's mind, especially if you're online and you have had the algorithm feed you these fear-based posts by these pediatricians who are so unwilling to have a conversation about co-sleeping, is SIDS, which is super scary and also super real. I don't want to in any way dismiss the reality of SIDS, but what if there were protective factors that you could put in place to reduce your risk of SIDS and maybe even prevent it altogether? Have you ever thought about where co-sleeping and bed sharing comes from? The cultural practices of having your children in the same room or bed as you long term? And deeper than that, have you ever thought about what actually happens when we sleep? How restorative sleep actually plays into our emotional regulation and our overall development and health and well-being? Today, I'm so excited to have on someone that I have followed for many years and I have learned so much from, and that is Dr. Greer Kirshenbaum. She is a neuroscientist, an author, a doula, an infant and family sleep specialist, and a mom. She trained at the University of Toronto and Columbia University with additional training at New York University and Yale. Greer has combined her academic training with her experience as a doula and a mom to lead the Nurture Revolution, which coincidentally is also the name of her book, and I'm reading it right now as I prepare for my own baby. Dr. Kirshenbaum started a movement to nurture our baby's brains so that we can revolutionize mental health and impact larger systems in our world, starting with newborn sleep. She also hypothesizes that through a boost in mental wellness, we can diminish depression, anxiety, and addiction in adulthood by shaping babies' brains through simple, intuitive, enriching experiences in pregnancy, birth, and infancy. In today's episode, I'm going to ask her all about good sleep quality and this myth about babies needing to learn to self-soothe, and the idea behind putting your baby down drowsy but awake, which of course leads us into the conversation of quote unquote creating bad habits. I'm particularly interested in what the neuroscience says about that concern. I'm also interested in how close sleep proximity impacts things like long-term breastfeeding, milk supply, and the hormonal and emotional regulation, particularly cortisol levels, in our babies. This is a conversation that I get to completely nerd out, and it is so cool to be able to bring you along with this conversation. So buckle up and maybe even grab a pen and paper, because there's probably some things you're going to want to jot down throughout this episode. Without further ado, Dr. Greer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is an honor for me to have you on the show. This is a topic that I'm so passionate about, and it blends beautifully with my background of human development and being able to help parents understand that things like attachment and bonding and sleep, these are biological needs. We are wired to have and do these things, even though the internet has this really nasty way of making us believe that babies don't sleep, they will never sleep, just get used to running on 2 hours of sleep. And that is just simply
Mhm.
not the truth. And so I'm so excited to hopefully rewire people's brains and rewrite that narrative for parents so that they can walk away understanding, like, hey, I can actually get my baby to sleep. They're biologically wired to sleep if I can understand and kind of set up our environment and our home and our schedules and our routines to facilitate that. So, a good jumping off place for us to start would be on a baseline. What does neuroscience tell us about newborn sleep or infant sleep?
I love everything you said because that's the goal. My life goal is to remove all of the fear and the myths and this whole world, this billion-dollar industry of infant sleep for parents, and so they can understand how to live in synchrony with their baby sleep, actually enjoy it, actually find some of the, I mean, most of the moments supporting a baby's sleep are actually some of the most magnified, beautiful moments of all of infancy, can create so much love and oxytocin and awe and joy. And it's not, what it's painted as, right? Is this like terrible problem that like you must follow these very strict rules and control and dominate, right? Because as you said, it's a biological process. We can't control or dominate that. You actually can't force any human to either to eat or sleep, right? And that really, really is obvious with a baby, right? So love it. That is one of the biggest missions of my life, is to get parents to a place of peace. And, it sounds wild, but some of that real juicy joy with their baby's sleep. And I've worked with thousands of parents at this point, and they all get there. And it is really just learning the science, right? So I think the biggest thing is neuroscience tells us that babies know how to sleep. They've been doing it all along. The whole time you've been growing them. They know how to sleep in the womb, and they also know how to sleep when they're born. But we just have to be curious about it and learn about it and probably change a lot about ourselves in the
Mhm.
process. Yeah.
And what does that curiosity look like? So, what kind of questions should we be asking as new parents once our baby is born?
Yeah. So I think one of the big messages that come from baby brain development and the early days with a baby is to be really present. And that's a big switch for people, a very big switch. We're mostly humans doing. We're mostly doing our to-do list, doing our work, doing our fun. Some of us do have beautiful practices of being as well, but maybe not everyone. Like most people don't, actually, in my experience. And babies really ask us to be there and be present and be with them. And so that would be the first step, is to say, how does my baby need me to be with them right now? And for the newborn days, a lot of that, the answer there is keeping that baby very close. They get so much safety from your presence. The second your baby's born, they are looking for your smell. They're looking for your touch. They're looking for your taste. They're looking for your eyes. They're living in this total sensory world where mostly mom, because they know you the best right now, and then dad or other parents will join in. But immediately they're looking for mom and are instantly calmed and soothed and feel totally safe and at home on you and with you. And that is something to notice. That is where they will sleep and rest the best. But parents are, because of the outside influences, sometimes even from birth, begin a struggle for separation with their baby, where they're like, no, this baby should be in the bassinet. They should be wrapped in a swaddle with a hat and gloves and a pacifier in a bassinet away from me. And the baby's, I don't feel safe here. I need my home. So we have to notice that and just be there with it, right? That's number one. Big one.
So, are you suggesting that maybe bed sharing or co-sleeping is one of the best ways that we can help our baby sleep and, dare I say, co-regulate?
Yes, absolutely. I say through in through a neuroscience lens, infancy, babyhood is 3 years. And other lenses, psychological lenses and other cultural lenses, that early part of life is 5 years and even up to 7 years. And if we are curious and listening to our children, they do want to sleep quite close to us throughout those first years of life. I have to tell you, when I started this work, telling people that they need to at least have their baby in the same room as them for the first few months was hard. And now I'm like up to 7 years. I'm like, whoa, calm down. But it's very different for all different people. Some little ones are comfortable going to their own space for at least part of the night after a couple years, and sometimes sooner. But it is also normal if your child is wanting that closeness, right? For the whole night or part of the night. But certainly for the baby years, highly recommend sleeping close, whether that's right next to you or bed sharing if that's safe for your family. Certainly for the newborn period, but absolutely consider it for those whole first 3 years of life.
And what's the difference between room sharing versus bed sharing versus co-sleeping?
Yeah, good distinction. Co-sleeping is sort of the umbrella term. And so co-sleeping can mean, depending on where you're reading it, it can mean either bed sharing or same room sleep. So I usually will say bed sharing means sharing the same surface as your baby. And there are very strict guidelines to do that. And so it's not about just throw the baby in the bed and it's all good. We have to be very knowledgeable about how to set that space up and also how to maintain that space to be safe every single sleep. Right? It's a very serious thing. And some people will meet all the guidelines for it and it will be safe. Others, it won't be. There might be some risk factors there. And so then same room sleep, room sharing could be an option for them too. And so that would mean babies in the same room, but on a different sleep surface. And that can look like a bassinet beside the parent's bed or sometimes a crib that's right next to the parent's bed.
And what would some of those risk factors be that a family might want to consider not bed sharing for? Something that comes to my mind is smoking or if
Yeah.
you have been drinking earlier
Yeah.
that night.
100%. So, yeah, those are very big ones. So, if there was any smoke exposure during pregnancy, or if someone in the home is smoking postpartum, or
Cigarettes.
throughout cigarettes, yeah, then baby should be on their own surface in the room, and anything intoxicating, like the usually mom's in charge of baby overnight in a bed sharing setup, and that's a whole other part we'll talk about, but she could have nothing intoxicating. So no alcohol, no cannabis, no any prescription drugs that have sedative effects. 'Cause mom needs to be completely aware of baby. So the first 4 months, mom will be sort of the primary for baby. And after 4 months, if dad or the other parent is there, if there is another parent, then they develop awareness of the baby over that initial period. And then they can start to be part of it as well over time. Yeah.
No, what's that 4 months got to do with it? Just a biological change that happens after 4 months in a male partner?
Yeah. So for dads, it takes about 12 to 14 weeks for his parental brain circuits to mature. And so then after that time, he'll develop that sort of awareness of the baby. But the really strict guidelines that I do recommend following for the first year are really mom doing a cuddle curl around baby and that sort of thing. Other ones, risk factors are if baby's premature, and yeah, that's a big one. Or if there are any other health concerns for baby. Having said all of it, some babies will not accept anything but being close. And so while some families are fully able to choose bed sharing or the sidecar room sharing setup, there are many babies who just will absolutely not sleep without contact or closeness.
Hmm.
Right. And so there we're then following everything we possibly can safety wise in order for everyone to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a controversial question, but it's super relevant here. And I feel like we would be remiss if we did not discuss this. I feel like people would walk away from this episode and say, but Greer, HeHe, you guys didn't talk about this one thing that's on everyone's minds, and it's obviously SIDS, right? So
Mm.
if it's biological and it's based in neuroscience to keep your babies close, and when we look at other mammals, they
Yeah.
are co-sleeping
Yeah.
with their babies.
Yeah.
The risk of SIDS is very real. We have lost babies
Hmm.
to suffocation
Hmm.
because co-sleeping was not done in a safe way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where is the balance? How do we honor that neuroscience-based biologically driven idea of sleeping with our babies close while
Mhm.
also reducing that risk of SIDS, especially when our big organizations like the AAP and you have all these pediatricians coming online saying really scary things like
Yeah.
if you co-sleep, your baby will die. And there's
Yes. There's
no
a lot.
nuance, there's no room for conversation, there's no room to ask questions and to gather more information and to explore if a family is actually appropriate to make a different decision than what's considered a norm in the US.
Yes.
How do we strike that balance of honoring what biology pushes us to do versus safety?
Yeah. Such a good question. So it's really hard for any of us to go against the AAP or pediatrician. And most likely, both of those will be telling you never to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Never to bed share. And there's a big wide world where a lot of the other rest of the world has moved on and do not take an abstinence only stance. So, the research, there are a few really good places where parents can read independent reviews of the research of SIDS. So, James McKenna has two books that review the research on SIDS and infant death. Helen Ball's book has information on it, and Leche's Sweet Sleep book have a review. I believe Sarah Ockwell-Smith also has a review of the research. And so these are at least four independent reviews that very closely look at all of the cases of SIDS, like all of the studies on them. And then they go in case by case and see what happened to the baby who sadly was lost in sleep. And so when they do this, there is a risk factor present for almost all of those babies. And so there was an intoxicated parent, the mattress was too soft, there was a blanket, there was a pillow, the baby got wedged between a headboard and a mattress. So the safe sleep guidelines we follow, which you can also find in all four of those books and also other places, will mitigate all of those. That's why I said very early on, we have to be very protective and serious about setting up a safe location and maintaining it constantly and making sure nothing ever dangerous comes into it, right? So there is a difference. These books will also do a very nice overview of there's a difference between ASSB, which is accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, and SIDS. So most of the deaths reported in some of these studies are accidental strangulation and suffocation. So we can actually do a lot to make the sleep environment safe. So those are not a possibility. And then there are cases of SIDS, which when separated, it is very, very rare, but it is still there, is hypothesized now to be based on a genetic mutation that we don't quite know exactly what it is yet. I hope that we can find out very soon and then can have really strong preventative care for babies who have it. But those babies will unfortunately be at high risk of SIDS either in a crib or in a bed sharing setup. And so in Dr. McKenna's books, he talks about actually a bunch of cases of bed sharing that actually saved babies' lives from SIDS because their mothers were so attuned to their breathing. They were right beside them. They woke up the second their baby stopped breathing and woke them up and saved their life.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible. Incredible. So there's that. And then there's also SIDS happens in cribs as
Yeah.
well. Okay. So there isn't, and Dr. McKenna talks about this too, there isn't overwhelming evidence. We can't go out and say bed sharing prevents SIDS. We're still working on that research, but we do have all these case studies where it did, and he does say it's within his scope to say he has that hunch. He has a hypothesis that it actually prevents SIDS, right? And he does also talk about too, like when you bring your baby in your bed, knowing if unfortunately there is a lot that they are lost in sleep. If you know that research, if you know what SIDS is and you know your sleep environment is safe, you'll have to be at peace with it, right? Yeah. Did I cover everything? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that was a beautiful breakdown of kind of that debate. Now, again, controversial, but do you think the argument that vaccines lead to SIDS or any sort of infant death holds any sort of water?
I haven't done a deep dive enough in to really comment. Yeah, it's not my area.
Yeah.
I don't have enough expertise there to
Yeah.
say so.
It often just gets thrown in with this, and I do think that the timing of things is peculiar, right? And that there's validity in people asking these questions, and it's still just a big question on everyone's mind of how possible is this? And I think
Yeah.
it's something we're going to have to continue
There's
to explore.
argument, there's research for and against, and
Totally.
it's not clear. I think it's, among many things with babies and mothers, under-researched and a huge injustice that we
Mhm.
have not had enough of our research dollars put into giving us peace of mind for these questions. Like we need it and we should
Yeah.
demand it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I agree. And, just recognizing that, like everything in motherhood, parenthood, pregnancy, birth, it's so individualized, right? So for these big organizations to make blanket statements without any sort of nuance or any sort of guidance for pediatricians to have deeper conversations and be able to deliver individualized care to individual families, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is an incredible disservice and injustice. And I do recognize for anyone at the AAP that's listening, being like, come on, HeHe, we're making recommendations for billions of people. I do understand
Mhm.
that. I get it. I
Mhm.
really do get that. But with that, and with our country being such a melting pot and having such vast differences in education level and parenting skills and access to care, all of
Mhm.
it plays into it. And I do believe that the AAP has a responsibility to support pediatricians in giving better individualized advice to individual families so that those families can be better supported in the decisions that they're making.
Yes, it's very important and it will save lives.
Yeah.
So the United Kingdom has safe sleep guidance available in their public health policies. I know at least the province of British Columbia does in Canada. Where else? UNICEF and Lullaby Trust do as well. I think those are mostly UK based, and a large part in thanks to Helen Ball's research and Helen Ball's guidance, because safe bed sharing guidance save lives. Because when your pediatrician and the AAP say, never put your baby in your bed, parents go to the couch. That's not a bed. They go to a recliner, also not a bed. And those two places are the most dangerous places to go with a baby for sleep. Absolute, it terrifies me that people do this. People in my own family have done it. It's just a very natural response to, oh, I've been scared about the bed. So the only way my baby's sleeping is on my chest or right beside me. So I guess we'll do it on the couch. They didn't say the couch, they didn't say a recliner. And that is where we lose babies. That
Yeah.
is where we lose babies. So you're right. We have to give people all of the information and also just give people some credit that they can handle nuance and they can handle the safe sleep guidelines. I think that AP used to have, if for cultural or whatever, something else reasons, you do bed share, use these guidelines. They used to have that. Their previous version had that, and they took it out in the newest one. So the hope is they go back, just like, the UK and parts of Canada have, because again, we have to give this information to families. We have to.
The bottom line is that people are doing it, right? It's kind of like abstinence only education. Like we
Exactly.
know that doesn't work. We know that teenagers are having sex. So instead of teaching them abstinence only, we should teach them about safe sex practices. We should teach young females about menstruation and ovulation and when they are at most risk of becoming pregnant. We should teach young males about ejaculation and how that also plays into it. Like we have not only the money, the resources, the data, the science, we have the outreach to actually disseminate this education to people, and our government actively chooses not to. And I view
Mhm.
safe sleep in the same way, is that we actually do have the resources, we have the infrastructure, we have the money, we have the data and the science. Why are we withholding this information from parents, knowing that no matter how much we say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, they're still doing it? We
Yeah,
must provide them with a way to do it safely, or we're never going to serve our families properly. So,
exactly.
I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. I'm not trying to hammer our
No,
government
I want to
either.
add one more thing too,
Yeah,
because there is
please.
research behind it too. In studies that have been done, 60 to 70%, depending on like between US and Canada, it was like I think 60 or 70 in both in either country, are bringing a baby under 6 months into their bed. So the vast majority are, and the reason kind of ties into our opening of this interview, which is because we are mammals who have evolved to sleep close.
Yeah.
And so that biological drive is there. And right, some babies with very easygoing temperaments, they'll sleep in a bassinet.
Sure.
That's probably that 30% who aren't bringing that baby in the bed in the first 6 months, right? But all the babies I work with, and that's a specific population, and that 60 to 70%, they are needing it. Like they are needing it, or their parents are up all night, you know, very, very, very difficult for families. Yeah.
Want to know something absolutely disgusting? Did you know that most coffee on the market is filled with mold and toxins that can drain your energy and stress out your adrenals? No wonder so many of us feel jittery, anxious, exhausted, and tearful after we have that little pick me up coffee. Honestly, this is one of the biggest reasons that about 6 to 8 months before I got pregnant, I switched to Purity Coffee, and I did a lot, and I mean a lot of research on coffee brands to find the best one. I landed on Purity Coffee very confidently because it's third party tested and certified mold free. It's also regeneratively farmed. It's also pesticide free, USDA certified organic, and sustainably sourced, which means the people who are growing and picking your coffee are actually paid an actual living wage. And they provide full traceability, which means you can check them on this. The other thing that I love is that when Purity Coffee is roasted, it's not burnt to a freaking crisp where you lose all the health benefits. And if you're like, well, what health benefits? There are actually chlorogenic acids that are actually healthy for us. You know how you kind of find the studies every now and then that are like, oh, a cup of coffee a day keeps the doctor away. Well, it's true, but it's not true for all coffees. It actually matters what kind of coffee you drink. And that's why I love Purity Coffee. I can tell you that within 1 week of switching from, let's call it Schmarshmugs coffee to Purity Coffee, I felt less anxious. I was more productive during the day. The brain fog went away. I slept better at night. And all those jitters that used to come in the early morning after I had my coffee were completely non existent. Not to mention, it genuinely tastes delicious. You guys know that I would never, ever, ever share a product that I didn't really love and really use. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I tag them all the time because it is such great high quality coffee and it is delicious. Head to puritycoffee.com and get your health focused coffee without compromise, and you can use code HeHe, HeHe, to save some money. And right now, between now and October 3rd, you can actually save 30% off. So head to puritycoffee.com and use code HeHe at checkout to save some money. Oh, and if you're looking for what I drink, I love the Ease. It's my favorite. I drink it every single day, and I also have Flow for the days that I feel like I might not necessarily need a whole dark roast. Oh, and one other thing, not only do they have whole bean coffee that you can grind up and use in a regular coffee pot, but they also have pods too, which is what I use in my Keurig every single morning. One more time, head to puritycoffee.com, use code HeHe at checkout, that's HeHe, and get your best coffee now that's completely mold free and actually going to help you have health benefits. Cheers! Okay, so let's dive into those babies that are up all night and they just literally will not sleep. I'm talking like naps. They won't take longer than 20 or 30-minute naps. They are up multiple times a night. My instincts and my background lends me to thinking that this is an overtired baby, that we haven't really set up this baby to be able to regulate themselves to get long stretches at night. And I'm not talking about a 6-week-old baby that's sleeping 12 hours at night. That's unrealistic. When we
Mhm.
look at appropriate age-based sleep, and these babies still are not doing it, what advice do you have for those parents? And what are some of the possible things that are maybe going on?
Yeah. These are the babies I see in my consulting practice all the time, parents who are really struggling. A lot of what's going on is a battle between, so the parent does want to take a nurturing path with their baby, but they're still living in this world that has all of this sleep training dogma kind of just like infiltrating everything. So a lot of times they are following some of the sleep training stuff, but they're not leaving the babies to cry. And when you put that together, there's a lot of problems. Yeah, yeah, a lot of problems. The biggest one is there's all these sleep routines and sleep schedules out there. And so some babies, like you said, could be very much overtired and they also might be undertired.
Mm.
So parents, okay, this chart, my baby's 3 months. This chart says they should be sleeping at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., whatever it is. And so they try that. It doesn't work because baby is either undertired, overtired, or just it's not their natural rhythm. And that can snowball into issues at night, right? Because babies do need, in order for their nighttime sleep to be optimal, they do need to have these regular naps throughout the day that are rejuvenating them and breaking their sleep pressure and cleaning out their brain of waste product and building their memories. And sleep's so important, so important. So the schedules, the false schedules are a huge one. And so my recommendation is to be following your baby. Do not follow someone else's schedule. And you might not even follow your baby's schedule from the day before, because especially in the early months and weeks, they're a different baby every day. And there's a huge range of temperament too, where some are very regular and will nap exactly at the same time, and others are not at all regular. And you just need to be in tune with them and see when they're starting to get a little sleepy and offer them that sleep they need.
Now,
Yeah.
that's really hard for adults who thrive on consistency and
Mhm.
routine.
Yep.
And they're sitting here thinking, oh, Dr. Greer, that ain't never going to work for me.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to those parents?
Yeah. So the first is welcome to having a baby. Babies, I work with a lot of moms who are perfectionists, type A. They do want everything planned. They want to know what to expect. They want everything scheduled and detailed. And a baby will take that plan and shred it a lot of times, unless you do, like I said, there are some babies who are just super easygoing. They'll go with the flow and just go with it. But the many won't. And so it is a huge challenge for you to actually really grow as a person, really grow your presence, really grow your flexibility. And just because you're not going to have a schedule down to the minute, you can still have routines in your day. And babies actually do very well with routines. So you can say, my baby might not wake up at exactly 7 a.m. every morning. Maybe some days it's 6:30, some days it's 8. But when they do wake up, we have a routine. We go outside, we have some breakfast, we go for a walk, we go do this, we go do that. And then when I see my baby's ready for a nap, we have another routine. We have our nap routine and we have our lunch routine, right? And things like that. So I try to help people learn to let go of needing that predictability. You've got a long life with that baby, and there's a lot of things that are not going to be predictable. And while we might have gotten away with that as kind of a controlling perfectionist, coping mechanism pre-child, we will see that once you have your baby, none of those, any coping mechanism that you have for life it's gone. You actually have to really come back to humanity, really come back to the core of who you are and what you need and what you feel, and have real ways to handle your emotions and your feelings and not be using some of these kinds of things that you could use before, right? It's big.
So you've dipped your toes into kind of nervous system regulation and emotional regulation. And I'd
Mhm.
love for you to just kind of like brain dump on the association between nervous system and emotional regulation and newborn sleep. Not only
Mhm.
ours as adults and how it impacts babies' sleep, but how is our nervous regulation or lack thereof impacting our child's nervous system and their emotional
Mhm.
regulation.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic and to be taken as like a seed of learning, right? It's something that I'm still learning this, right? I have a 7-year-old little boy. So your nervous system is one and the same with your babies. You essentially are one unit, one biological unit. That goes for pregnancy. And when you're pregnant, you want to be doing what you can to regulate, not avoiding stress in any place because life stress and that's okay. Really taking care of it when it comes up and seeking out practices that are going to be good for your nervous system at all times, right? As a mom through pregnancy and beyond. Because then, yeah, also when your baby's born, you are separate. The cord is cut, but you still are one nervous system. Your baby is always attuning to you, they are referencing you. And so when you are in a heightened nervous system state, when you're stressed, when you're happy, when you're sad, your baby experiences that as
Mm.
well. They're very much connected. And so, yeah, if we're feeling a lot of uncontrolled, unmanaged stress, anxiety, our babies will feel it too. But there's so many things we can do when that comes up because I will also say all moms feel stress, anxiety, and like it's unmanageable. We used to have a much bigger circle of care around us when we were pregnant. We used to be mothered. The mother was mothered. And sadly, it's missing for a lot of people now. And the modern mom does have a lot. And so I will say we do have to build that for her as much as possible because her nervous system care, her wellness is directly related to babies.
And what kind of things can moms do in pregnancy and maybe in those first 6 months postpartum to regulate their nervous system? And you're going to have more time in pregnancy, especially if it's your first
Yeah.
and you don't have a toddler that you're chasing around and you don't have other children that you're trying to care for. Whereas immediately postpartum, your time is going to be limited. You will have very little time without your baby present. You will have
Mhm.
other demands. Mental health comes into play. Not that it doesn't in pregnancy, but oftentimes it's much more at play in postpartum.
Yeah, completely. So there's so many little things that we can do. In pregnancy, like you said, yeah, we do have that luxury that we still have freedom, which goes away quite a bit when the baby comes. Warning. There's a long time where you are, like I said, you are one with your baby. And we do want to support you to have the moments to yourself, but they will be small, shorter, and fewer. So, yeah, in pregnancy, you can do, I always will start with someone. It's very individual. Start with what do you already do? What do you already do, or what are you already interested in
Hmm.
that could be relaxing? Because mindfulness is, of course, a huge thing that really helps, but there's so many ways. You can sit and breathe. You can do body scans. You can do a walking meditation. You can do an eating meditation. You can look at a plant and practice mindfulness. You can do yoga, all kinds of things, right? Those are kind of like the practices people have. And then there's like the micro, I say like micro moments of regulation. And those can look like just noticing when you're tense, noticing when the stress is there, and maybe, and again, choose your own adventure. There's so many ways. You can turn on a song and do a little dance. You can like hug yourself and close your eyes. You can just flip your attention inward and breathe and notice your body. You can call your best friend and be like, this is how I'm feeling right now. And have your friend just say, "Oh, I'm so here for you. I'm here for this," right? Have that social support. So important for moms. And I like to call them for an individual mom, whatever is going to help her take it, right? So it's take your little brain breaks through the day, take your stress breaks through the day. Make sure you're just for 30 seconds, maybe just closing your eyes and breathing. And when baby's there, maybe they're feeding while you do that. Maybe they're falling asleep beside you. Maybe you have them in a carrier and you do it that way. It is a mindset thing because you do get those moments are there. You just have to clue in.
Intentionally carve them out. And you guys, I'm always telling you what works for me, which doesn't mean it'll work for you, but I always want to level set with you that I am on this side of the microphone and I understand that you're on that side of the earbuds, but I'm just a regular girl like you. So, a couple of things that have worked for me in pregnancy is every morning and every night I take just a few minutes. Sometimes it's 90 seconds if I'm trying to. I've got a busy morning. I woke up late or I hit snooze one too many times because I do that a lot. And then sometimes it's 10 or 15 minutes where I just have the time to relax, but I connect with this baby and I talk to them and I put my hands on my belly and I'm taking deep breaths and I'm visualizing. Throughout the day, for me, I really notice when my jaw is clenching and I will unclench my jaw, I will unclench my pelvic floor. I'll take a deep breath and I usually let out some sort of audible sound. So mine would sound like this. And my husband has had to be conditioned to not say, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just resetting. This is just me like resetting my nervous system. Nothing is wrong per se. I just needed a little bit of a release." And so I want to encourage you that sometimes when we talk about self-care and we talk about regulating our nervous systems, it can feel so daunting because you're like, I literally don't have 30 minutes to sit down and do a meditation. I do not have 30 minutes that I can grab a journal and write out my thoughts. I am a busy mom of four. I barely have 90 seconds to pee by myself. And a lot of times there are fingers reaching under the doors. I see you. Okay. Totally I see you. You are here and you're seen for sure. So it can be something that is easily incorporated while you are showering, or you are driving, or you are cooking, or you're folding laundry, or you are bouncing that baby to sleep at night. So I don't want you to be turned off to the idea of your own self care and emotional regulation because it feels like too much to fit into your schedule. Find things that naturally fit into your schedule and are not going to take away extra time during the day because I do understand wholeheartedly how
Mhm.
how much that feels just like extra burden and extra mental load. And I want to do the opposite for you for sure. Hey, Dr. Greer, what about parents who have been sold this lie? And I say it very specifically and intentionally that way because this is a made up lie that is told to parents. I do not ever believe that parents just naturally instinctually believe this, but the idea that we can create bad habits in tiny babies. Now,
Mhm.
is the idea of repetitive behavior a thing? For sure. Absolutely. I'm not saying that we can't do something so long that our children then begin to have these behaviors be, kind of there. But in tiny, tiny babies, the idea of creating bad habits or your newborn is manipulating you, just like really vicious and harmful
Mhm.
lies that parents are sold. Help us understand that. What comes to mind when I say those things?
Well, it breaks my heart, first of all.
Yeah.
It makes me so, so deeply sad because it is an attack on a baby's primary needs
Mm-hmm.
to, you know. So it makes me very sad to know there are so many babies who aren't being nurtured in the way that they need it because of these lies. Um, and it's important for parents to know that, yes, they are, I imagine them as like this. The baby is like reaching out for what it needs, and the parent, kind of wants it. And then this like barrier gets like, slammed between them, right? And they're so harmful, these things. So no, you cannot. Feeding your baby to sleep is nature's design. Do a little bit of reading. Again, Sarah Ockwell-Smith's book is really good on this, talks about a lot of the contents of breast milk that are sleep inducing for babies and moms. And that's why bed sharing is also gets moms the most sleep, way more sleep. And so are there sleepy components in milk if it's not made to help babies fall asleep? Why the sucking behavior of babies is also deeply regulating and deeply lulling them to sleep in so many ways. Some people describe it as when they're nursing, it's like an internal massage and their entire body is like being massaged and soothed. So that's a normal human behavior that is there to make your parenting journey easy and dare I say, very enjoyable. Like also, all the moms I work with will say that was my superpower, and that I will treasure those memories for my entire life of feeding my baby to sleep and helping my baby to sleep. So feeding them to sleep, rocking them to sleep. These are some of the things that are like supposed to be bad habits. Laying with them while they fall asleep is supposed to be a bad habit. I will tell you, as a mom and also someone who's worked with so many people, n they all go away when they're supposed to go away. When the baby has finished this specific period of development, everything is a season. So they will not be feeding to sleep forever. They will not be needing to rock to sleep forever. Sometimes that's one way I work with people is helping them move away from rocking to sleep, for example, because baby's gotten so heavy and it's no problem. You just there's another way that we'll try and it's all good, right? There's no bad habit or bad decision or one. I say there's no one-way street in parenting for anything. You can always change. We're talking about people here, right? Yeah. Are those the big one? Are those the big bad habits? I don't know. There's other ones too, probably. Helping them every time they cry, right? Helping a baby every time they cry, helping them when they're dysregulated is building their nervous system to be strong and able to handle things later. So it's actually the opposite. If you ignore them, they're going to have a lot of trouble later. It
So,
works against people.
are you suggesting that maybe the cry it out method is in fact harmful because we're not responding to our babies?
Yeah, I'm deeply concerned about that. It's like I think if we weren't leaving babies to cry it out, we would have a very different mental health
Mm-hmm.
situation on our hands right now. I can't prove it that I don't have that knockout study. We have hundreds and maybe thousands of studies that suggest it because of how stress shapes the developing brain. But that is what I believe, but cannot prove that sleep training is a source of a huge amount of mental health issues
I
that we have
deeply
in the
believe
world.
that too. Okay, tell us about what those studies show. So when we look at babies who are left to cry it out, we see that their brains literally physically change in not a good way.
Yeah. So the emotional systems in the baby's brain are all rapidly developing in these first 3 years of life and are about 50% genetics and 50% experience, guided by 50% in terms of all levels of neuroscience, right? Molecular, cellular, circuitry, and sort of macro anatomy as well. We really want to give babies very specific experiences from 0 to 3, very responsive and nurturing experiences, because when we do, all of those emotional systems, so all these systems, I call them emotional systems, they're the ones that are the parts of our brain that make up our mental health. So the amygdala, hippocampus, hypothalamus, prefrontal cortex are the big ones. There's many others as well. There's all the neurotransmitter systems, our serotonin, our norepinephrine, our dopamine. These are also all developing in these early years. And so what studies show is when there's animal studies and there's human studies in both realms of study, when developing brains experience high levels of stress, we're actually shaping those brain areas I listed towards high reactivity and towards vulnerability to mental health issues. And we do not have any study of safety for sleep training. Again, all humans are different. They're all going to have different experiences under the same condition or similar conditions. And we don't have the study that actually looks at what a baby is experiencing during sleep training. We don't know what their stress levels look like. We do know that they cry, vomit, have diarrhea, bang their heads, pull out their hair, chew their cribs, all signs of extremely high distress. So we can guess that they're experiencing intolerable stress during that time. And putting all that together makes me very concerned about it. Yeah.
It pains me to even think about any child experiencing that, much less my own child. I just could not
Yes.
imagine standing outside of my child's room, watching them on a monitor experience that stuff and not immediately going
Mhm.
in. That would never work for my personality, for my own nervous system. I would be like, forget it. I, as a person, as a human, as a mom, cannot take this. So, regardless of
Mhm.
whether this is the quote unquote right choice or what the professionals told me or somebody told me it was my only way, I would never be able to do it. I would just say it's just not an option for me.
Yeah. And luckily now there is a whole world of support for parents who are not sleep training, but that's pretty new. It's
Yeah.
pretty new. People had to hide it or, and not get support because we can also optimize baby sleep without sleep
Mhm.
training, right?
Yeah.
So that's important that there's support. And to also say to parents who have sleep trained, who may be listening or know people who have as well, it for most parents, like you said, it's outlined to them as the only way. They are told massive lies that if you don't do this, you're harming your baby. Your baby will never sleep ever if you don't do this. So this is a good thing you're doing for your baby, right? So people
Mhm.
are sold all of this. A lot of times moms have to go to a hotel, leave, hire someone else to do it. Sometimes dads do it because they're not as connected, especially in the early months. It's really hard. And saying out there my concerns about the baby's mental health in it, I'm also really concerned about mom, dad, siblings' mental health to see another human being treated like this in their home. Right. And so moms are told some moms, even with postpartum depression, are told, oh, your answer's sleep training. And so you imagine, what are we doing to the baby? And are we helping her there? Right. Like moms and babies need to be close. And that's where health comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Such an interesting study would be to look at, I guess I'm thinking school shooters just because it's so prevalent in our country right now, but
Mhm.
anyone who carries out like public violence like that, what type of bond and attachment do they have to their parents? Were they subject to sleep training? Were they
Mhm.
subject to cry it out? Were they subject to out of home daycare? Were they subject to these things that we know dissect that or sever that bond between a mother and a child? And I say that without any judgment. So anyone who's listening that's thinking, okay, I have a choice. I hear you. I
Mhm.
totally hear you. This country is not set up to support mothers and babies, and it certainly doesn't pay any attention to bonding or attachment or any of that. We could not care less that you have to go back after 2 weeks of having a baby. That
Mhm.
is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life, that we just do
Mhm.
not value the mother baby dyad in the least at this country. So I do recognize it is not your fault. But if we looked back in a retrospective study, would we find that our culture and the way in which we don't support parents is actually perpetuating the really dire mental health situation that we have in our country?
Yeah.
Would anxiety and depression and suicide go down? Would our divorce rates go down? Would the financial strains that families are feeling because they don't have this education go down. What type of prominent problems that are facing our country today are actually being caused by the way our children are being treated in those first 3, 5, 7, 12 years of life?
Yeah. I would guess all of them
Yeah.
influence
Yeah.
in some way. I think with school shooting and with some really extreme aggressive aggression and things like that, there's probably multiple factors.
Yeah,
So I would,
video games, things they're seeing at home, online influence.
yeah. And even like other brain connectivity things,
Okay.
right? So it isn't, I'm not saying like all school shooters are psychopaths, but in psychopathy, they will always usually find there's been a serious head injury
Wow.
and very often a severed or not connected prefrontal cortex to emotional center. So that in combination with really low care during the baby years, we'd have to see. You'd have to
Mm,
see. But for the milder cases of lack of empathy, aggression, yeah, all of that, I always think about how was that person treated as a baby?
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So heartbreaking. But then on the flip side of that, obviously in true HeHe fashion, I'm like always trying to find the silver lining. It's if we could get a study like that, if we could start to look retrospectively at those things, it gives us hope that we could fix them in the
Yep.
future, right? We could
Yep.
actually completely redo this narrative and maybe stop this really terrible runaway train in its tracks.
100%. And
Yeah.
that's it. That's why every time I get like an email from someone like, "Oh, I read your book," or your works, I was parenting this other way and now I'm totally changed and everything's great now. I just imagine that baby growing up and what that baby's going to do when they grow up and the
Yeah.
ripple effects of that.
Yeah.
And that's it. If we can we get a million babies nurtured? Can we get like 300 million babies nurtured? I don't know. What would the world look like? That is the hope, right? That we can, with our mothering superpowers. And nothing has become more evident to me over the past few years in my career doing this is that mothers can fix everything. Yeah, we can absolutely change
Yeah.
the
Oh my
direction that
gosh.
we're in.
I
Yeah.
believe that deep in my soul. Okay, so for moms that are looking for a quick guide, you had just mentioned a few minutes ago, there are things that we can do to influence our babies for optimal sleep. If you've got a mom with a pen and paper and she's like, all right, Dr. Greer, give me your top like couple tips. What are the things that we're looking to do or we are looking at in order to influence our babies for optimal sleep? Number one,
Hmm.
obviously, keep them in proximity. So we got that.
Yeah. Make sure they're sleeping in an environment where they feel safe. And if your baby's not comfortable sleeping alone, they need to be close. Keep your baby close for sleep. They will, by the way, develop that ability to sleep, to feel safe enough to sleep alone. It's not a bad habit to hold them. It's actually really beneficial and wonderful for their brain to be held a lot during the newborn phase, at least, like on your chest for naps, all this kind of stuff. It's good. It will keep you rested. It will keep you in your oxytocin bubble. So I said also, yeah, no, understanding your baby's sleep cues, knowing when they're tired, and having that like working with the intention of that flexible mind for my baby's sleep might not look the same. Their naps might not all be the same length. They might not be at the exact same time. Their bedtime might not be the exact same time every day. Their wake up time might not be. But let's trust their brain to take the sleep it needs. If we set everything up for them, their brain will take the sleep it needs. Same with us, right? So that's important. Light is very important. If Andrew Huberman has not gotten his message to you yet, I will say it here. Morning light, get sunlight onto your eyeballs and your baby's eyeballs within 15 minutes of waking up. Keep those days bright. Spend, as much time as you can outside, regardless of the climate. Like I live in Canada, we get our kids in snowsuits and we go outside, no matter what. There's no bad weather, just bad clothing. So suit up, Get outside. Lots of active time, right? People have their babies in container after container. Like sometimes they don't even get out of the car seat. It's just unlatch them from the car seat and latch them into the wheels and then wheel them around and then put them in the swing and then put them in the high chair. It's like babies need a lot of time to move, like right away, right? Like right from the beginning. Lots of floor time, lots of exploration time. Super important. Some parents will see drastic results just with that. We want the nights dark. Like also going back to some Huberman tips, like super dark. Like you want your bedroom to be a cave. You want the air quality great. You want it dark. You want it clutter free, all these kinds of things. So for babies, sometimes you need a little nightlight, especially in the early days of learning how to breastfeed or a diaper change, right? Like lights get less active as they get older. Use a red light just as needed. Don't, a lot of the families I work with will just have a red light on all night or a night light on all night. Terrible for everybody's sleep. Really important. Yeah, those are the big ones. And then also the junk sleep thing is like another myth that parents need. So your baby can sleep in a carrier, your baby can sleep in a stroller, your baby can sleep in the car. It actually will keep you saner because you can actually get out of your house and go for walks and do things. And your baby is going to get restorative sleep wherever they are sleeping. So those are like big ones. That's a good foundation
I love
for
that so
people.
much. Two things that you didn't talk about that I always educate about is temperature. So 68 to 72 is what I typically tell parents, depending on your home life and the climate that you live in and how you dress your baby for sleep. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. You
And
want
then,
it cold. Actually, being cold, lowering your core body temperature is a prerequisite to fall asleep.
wow, okay.
It has to go down. So a bath 1 hour before bed is also good because that will also help lower core body temperature. Yeah.
Okay. And what about white noise? Do you suggest white noise for sleep to protect their sleep?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no, I don't. White noise, I recommend as needed. Like
okay.
it is not a blanket tool for everybody. What it is good. It does not keep your baby asleep or anything like that. What it and it actually you also want to be very careful about the volume. You don't want it higher than 50 or so decibels, like so you can measure by your baby's ear to see the volume. What it is good at is buffering sudden noises in the
Mhm.
environment that might wake up your baby. So if your dog barks a lot, if there's a truck outside at a certain time every night, that's when you might want to bring that tool into your life, but otherwise not needed.
Or if you're
Yeah.
like me and you order Amazon every day and they're constantly ringing your doorbell, get that white noise
Yes.
in there.
Yes. But
Okay.
also don't forget, don't you, your baby does not need silence to sleep. And actually, we do not want to give them silence to sleep. Starting from when they're young, move about the house, do the things you need to do. You don't really need to lower your voice that much if they're napping on you or in a carrier. That's all. It's actually a safety signal to them that they're not
Yeah.
alone. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
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 So go to the brewery, get out and vacuum, have the
Yes.
TV on, run that washer and that dryer and that dishwasher. I love it so much. Okay, my last question is your opinion around the philosophy of don't put your baby down completely asleep. However, put them
Hmm.
down drowsy but awake. What do we
Hmm.
think about that?
It does not work for
Yep.
most people.
That's my opinion
There
as
are
well.
some, there are some. I have met one once. Again, that is going to be a baby super high end on the easygoing temperament. That's very happy to do that. So there's nothing wrong with your baby if that's okay, if that's cool with them, but it's actually more nurturing to hold them until they fall asleep, until they're in a deep sleep, and then to transfer them or cuddle them to sleep, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not needed.
Dr. Kirshenbaum, this has been such a good conversation. I really appreciate you being so transparent and being willing to talk about the conversations that I think a lot of people find taboo, or they might be embarrassed to ask these questions, or maybe they've brought these questions to people and professionals in their lives and they have been shamed, or they've been shut down, or they've been told that because they're exploring these things, then it is a reflection on them as a parent or their ability or and their decision making skills. And so I just
Mhm.
wanted to say thank you for joining me. Thank you for being willing to walk this with us, because I really do think a lot of parents are yearning for this conversation. And there are not many places on the internet that are willing to have these conversations in a non judgmental way and in a transparent
Mhm.
way that says, you're allowed to ask these questions, and it makes you a good parent to be curious, and it makes you an informed parent, that you're looking at your options and that you are actually allowed to make the decision that feels best for your baby. And there's data that supports all of these options. So do what's best for your family. I love that so much. Okay, you mentioned a book. I know you work with Dr. Rocio, who is also on an episode. If
Mhm.
people wanted to learn from you, connect with you, hear more about the research that you're doing, and learn more about the sleep support that you provide, how can people do that?
Yeah, thank you. This is such a good conversation. So refreshing. So happy to be here today. Yeah, so people can read my book called The Nurture Revolution. A lot of people are like, I want references. I want references. I think there's over 700 references in my book. And I wrote it on purpose because I'm like, here are your references. Go find them and enjoy them and use them. So that's a great place. It's a great place to get a whole overview on why mental health is so important to build in those first 3 years. My website is nurture-neuroscience.com. And I've got, like you said, sleep consultations. I have a professional training for people who want to work with babies with their sleep and work with pregnant moms and postpartum moms. And I have a mom's program as well. So lots of great things growing and evolving.
I love it so much. Are you on social media at all?
Yes, mostly on Instagram, and it's my name, Dr. Greer Kirshenbaum.
All right, you guys, thanks for showing up for us today. I know that this was a highly requested topic, and I hope that Dr. Greer and I gave you everything that you wanted to hear. I hope that we really went there on the taboo topics. I hope that you got the information that you came eager to learn today. And deeper than that, I hope we kind of restored some of your confidence in yourself to be able to make those decisions for your family. So I'm just going to say it one more time, because I think maybe we can never hear this enough, but you're allowed to make whatever decision feels best to you. If you are not feeling supported by the healthcare professionals in your life, consider changing healthcare professionals. I really encourage you to have an open conversation with them, a collaborative, communicative style with your healthcare professionals. If you find that you're having to hide things or lie to your child's pediatrician about the decisions that you're making at home, I really implore you to consider if that's the right fit for you. And hopefully, you'll be able to find a pediatrician that can better serve your family and will meet you where you are in the decisions that you are making. All right, you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Be sure to follow Dr. Kirshenbaum on social media. You can find me at Tranquility by HeHe and at the.birth.lounge. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love hanging out with you, and it is an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should be listening to the Birth Lounge podcast too. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent without all the trauma that you so commonly hear about on social media. New episodes air every Wednesday and Friday. Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. I'm HeHe, and this is the Birth Lounge Podcast.